Security rules are where most people become familiar with policy. Stateful firewall and next-generation firewall access rules are very similar in many ways. The goal is to identify traffic based on the session properties and allow or deny the session. In this lesson, we will look at some examples of security policy. Stateful firewall policy or access rules rely on the policy engine to scan inbound sessions in order to determine whether the session should be allowed or not. Standard stateful firewall policy allows you to analyze inbound sessions based on source and destination properties and Layer 3 and Layer 4 header information. The source and destination match fields include source and destination zones and source and destination addresses. Within each tab, there are multiple match criteria. Whenever a field is left empty, it is considered a match as the policy engine determines that the administrator does not care what that field value is. When a value is included in one of the fields, that field must be true about the session. When multiple values are configured in the same field, the value list is considered a logical OR. This means that at least one of the listed values must match. When values are entered in multiple fields, it is considered a logical AND. In the example, the source zone is not specified, but a destination zone is specified. This means that any source zone is a match, but the destination zone must be the zone listed. Where a source address list is also present, this indicates that the source address must be one of the listed addresses, and the destination zone must be a match as well. If the session matches all of the criteria in the tab, the session is analyzed according to the properties in the next tab. If the session does not match the criteria within the tab, the rule match is false and none of the parameters in the following tabs are analyzed. If multiple rules are configured in the policy, then the session is passed on to the next rule for processing. If the session matches the parameters in all of the tabs, then the enforce action in the last tab is taken, and no other rules are evaluated for that session. The Enforce tab specifies what action should be taken with sessions that match the parameters in the previous tabs. All of the parameters in the previous tabs must match in order to proceed to the Enforce tab. For stateful firewall, the session can be allowed, denied, or rejected. Logging parameters for the session can also be configured in the Enforce tab. Once an action is taken on a session, it is considered a terminating action. This means that no further rule processing takes place for that session, and the next session is analyzed. Next-generation firewall access policy allows you to consider more information than the standard stateful firewall policy. Next-generation firewall rules can analyze Layer 3 through Layer 7 session properties, which includes the use of the Application Identification Engine, URL string analysis, and user authorization information. The processes that the next-generation firewall access rules can forward to are capable of deep packet inspection and the analysis of data sessions based on URL, IP, and application metadata. The source and destination properties that can be used for next-generation firewall matching include the same source and destination information used for other processes, with the addition of site information. The Headers and Schedule tab includes the standard Layer 3 and Layer 4 header information. The next-generation firewall access rules include the addition of the Applications and URL match criteria. The Applications match criteria leverages the Application Identification Engine in the Versa operating system. The URL Categories match criteria leverages the system's ability to analyze the URL string and compare it to the built-in URL category list. The Users and Groups match criteria leverages the Captive Portal or Active Directory integration functions to determine whether the user that is attempting to start the session is a specific user or a user that belongs to a user group. This allows user or group-specific policy to be applied to network sessions for access control. The Enforce tab of the Next-Generation Firewall Access Rule allows you to allow, deny, or reject the session directly. It also provides the option to pass the session off to another process for further analysis. The other processes are called security profiles. The security profiles allow further processing of the data based on IP or URL metadata and can direct the traffic through IDP processes or antivirus processes. It can also direct traffic towards a packet capture engine to capture packets from the data stream for further analysis. Packet captures are stored in PCAP format in Versa Analytics. The policy engine does not perform the additional processing such as virus scanning or metadata analysis. The policy engine and the access rule is used to identify which traffic should be sent to the other processes. This gives the administrator a great deal of flexibility to determine what traffic requires a light processing touch or a more in-depth processing.